wow, it's 2025. What does this guy mean he's going to make Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream come true? To some extent, President Trump feels like it's not true. So whatever it is, based on the people he's talking to, the things that he's seeing, he seems to think what he heard in MLK's speech still isn't happening to some extent.
When you say Harris, nobody knows who that you're talking about. No, nobody has any idea. Harris. Hey, where's Harris? They know Kamala. They know Kambabla. That was the nickname I used for a while, but I don't use it anymore because everyone thought I was just mispronouncing her name. I wasn't. Kambabla.
January 20th, 2025 was Inauguration Day in the United States of America. It's the day where our next president is sworn into office. It is also Martin Luther King Day, two very profound events that always take place on this day. However, President Donald Trump said something that was pretty profound during his presidential inauguration speech. At least I thought it was profound. Others thought it was provocative, insensitive, offensive, and some were just downright outraged. And of course, MSNBC found a way to capitalize on it. Welcome to CozyCorner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kieran Smith. Call me Q, and we are on the corner. We're on the corner, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for stopping by and chilling with me today. What is up, everybody? And we are going to be talking about President Donald Trump's inauguration speech, at least mildly. I'm going to play a clip before we actually jump into what Joy Reid and Martin Luther King III had to say about some of the remarks President Donald Trump made in his speech, which I have to be honest with you, I was a little dumbfounded by this. I couldn't even believe how they were able to take what this man said and spin it in a way where it just turned into some type of rhetoric that made everyone upset. Like, I'm sitting here watching this and I'm like, are we listening to the same speech? So let's jump right into, first and foremost, what President Trump said actually out of his mouth during his inauguration speech. I'm actually going to play it's actually a minute long, but this minute long clip, I believe it is probably the most pivotal clip to play because it's going to talk about what NBC is referring to when they're saying it was a painful day, referring to MLK Day and Inauguration Day being on the same day. So let's take a look at what President Trump had to say in his speech.
To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true.
And there you see in this clip, it seems as if President Donald Trump got a standing ovation for what he said in reference to Martin Luther King Day. He said that it's an honor, first and foremost, and he said we are actually going to make his dream come true. Now, why do I say that to some this was offensive and it actually outraged some? Because I know some people were thinking, wow, it's 2025. What does this guy mean he's going to make Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream come true? Like, MLK's dream already came true. Like, the country's not segregated, right? We're judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. Wrong. But amongst other things, it's like it's not a whole bunch of racism going on like it was in like the 30s and 40s or even the 50s and 60s. It's like 2025. So what is Donald Trump talking about? Well, what I think President Trump was referring to is something that actually Coleman Hughes has been talking about for such a long time, but people have literally put him to the flame for it and said that he is racist. He's talking about a colorblind country. He's not talking about ignoring the fact that someone's black or someone's white, but what he's saying is that if it's a merit-based system, we're not going to be employing people or putting people in positions based on the fact that someone is black or someone's white or Asian or Indian, Native American, whatever have you, which is what something like DEI, at least the corrupted, perverse version these last couple of years has been, is. That's what DEI actually does. And this is where we get it confused, especially people in the minority community. DEI has been twisted in ways that I can assure you the people that first put in place, if they were here, the people that first fought for it, if they were here and saw what it looked like today, they would be like, this is not what we had in mind. So let's take a look at what Joy Reid and some of her friends over at MSNBC had to say about the inauguration of President Donald Trump. And also we have Martin Luther King III on here who apparently fires back. So we already know this group is highly offended by something President Trump said. Let's figure out what they're offended by.
For a lot of Americans, there is a special pain in the fact that today's inauguration is taking place on the federal holiday honoring the life and service of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As I reflected on this weekend, I reread the speech Dr. King gave just 5 days before his murder in his last Sunday sermon delivered March 31st, 1968 at the Washington National Cathedral, same place as Jimmy Carter's funeral. He talked about the Poor People's March scheduled for that summer. Dr. King's speech, titled Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, is very prescient today. It begins with Washington Irving's story of Rip Van Winkle, noting that when Van Winkle went to sleep, the inn in town bore a picture of King George III of England. When Van Winkle awoke, the picture was of George Washington. Rip Van Winkle didn't just sleep 20 years, he slept through a revolution. Dr. King added, through our scientific and technological genius, we have made of this world a neighborhood, and yet we have not had the ethical commitment to make of it a brotherhood. But somehow and in some way, we have got to do this. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. Joining me now is Dr. King's son, Martin Luther King III, Reverend Amos Brown, pastor of the Third Baptist Church of San Francisco and president of the San Francisco NAACP, and Reverend Al Sharpton, president of the National Action Network and HOPE.
For anyone who's confused, this is actually Martin Luther King III. So this is MLK's son right here.
Of Politics Nation on MSNBC. Martin Luther King III, I go to you first to ask how it felt for you as his son to see his day coincide with the nomination of Donald Trump.
You know, it takes a lot of thought on that question because there's such a glaring difference of who people are. Not that anybody has to be like Martin Luther King, but the fact that in the past and even today, while Donald Trump talked about unity, many of the executive orders that he is proposing to sign do not represent the vision that Martin Luther King Jr. espoused. And so I guess it is what it is, but the question is, what do we do in the progressive community? We cannot be silent. We've got to engage in a different way. And I've been saying today that the only thing this society understands, and my father gave the example, and actually during the Rosa Parks, during the movement, when Rosa Parks was arrested, and for 385 days, the community chose not to ride buses. We got to look at seriously whether we're going to divest. And how do we create a structure to do that? Because that's the only thing that people understand when they're mistreating you, when you're disrespected. Dad wanted all people to be respected with dignity, and that is just not happening.
Reverend Amos Brown, you studied under Dr. King when he taught at Morehouse, and I do know because I interviewed you about your work with him.
Now, when Martin Luther King III says his dad wanted all people to be respected with unity, I'm thinking to myself, this is what President Trump said in his speech. He wants to make his dad's dream come true. To some extent, President Trump feels like it's not true. So whatever it is, based on the people he's talking to, the things that he's seeing, he seems to think what he heard in MLK's speech still isn't happening to some extent. And a lot of people criticized him for that. A lot of people were offended by that. And we can see, namely, one of those people is MLK's son himself.
met forever when you were just a teenager. I asked you the same question. Your feelings on the juxtaposition between these two men, the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the current occupant of the White House.
It presents our president as being the lower angels and Dr. King being the higher angel. That is the truth. There's no way that you can reconcile the rhetoric, the ruin, and the kind of reactionary politicking that this president has embraced. Dr. King was about pulling people together. He was about respecting the worth and the dignity of all humankind. He believed in Dr. Brightman's theory of personalism. What does that mean? Regardless to how different we may be as human beings, they are persons, and we should never do things that will cause harm, hardship, and horror for others. And all we have to do is just set the record and realize that this president has shown himself not to be of civility, kindness, love, respect, and a global world citizen.
No.
We even have in this nation persons who have embraced conservative religiosity that is not about Jesus of Nazareth, but it's about power, money, and racism. And that's why we still have not fulfilled Dr. Martin Luther King's dream of the beloved community.
Amen to that. Rev, my big brother, there's a lot going through my spirit today. But you know, Jesus loved the immigrant. Donald Trump has the promise to deport and persecute the immigrant. He preached love, as Reverend Brown has said. Donald Trump has celebrated, sort of luxuriated in those he hates, and so luxuriated in it that President Biden felt he had to pardon people he thought he might persecute. You today were inside of a very special church in D.C. holding a rally. Your thoughts on today? You were young, so you were with King when you were young and a little kid, but talk about.
No, I saw Dr. King twice as a kid, but I joined the movement when I was 12 in the North, and what made Dr. King a national figure is what we picked up today at Metropolitan AME, a church that had the funeral of Frederick Douglass and where the body of Rosa Parks was brought. Dr. King called an economic boycott, as Martin III just talked about, and hit him in the pocketbook. And what we said today is that these companies that are now saying they're going to back up off of diversity and equity and inclusion should therefore not have a diverse consumer base. You don't want diversity? Then we should not buy your products. And we're going to name what's coming. We're going to take 90 days, work with other groups, and come up with 2 or 3 companies that we're going to make the example of Dr. King. Is withdraw dollars. Donald Trump can't make us spend money with companies that will not deal and commit and continue with diversity and equity and inclusion.
And that was the Reverend Al Sharpton. And I mean, the Reverend Al Sharpton is iconic in the black community for lots of reasons. That's not the video that we're talking about today. But as far as some of George Reed's feedback towards President Donald Trump, I'm not sure what she sees. I'm not sure where she gets it from. Joy, did we watch the same speech? Did we hear the same thing? I mean, President Trump is not saying anything disrespectful. He's not calling for unity. So I'm really not sure where you guys are getting this rhetoric from. I do know that there are some communities that are being hit pretty hard, a little harder than others right now based on some of the executive orders President Trump has been signing within the first few days of him being in office. So if Inauguration Day was Jan 20th, we're on the 28th. He's 8 days in now, you know, and I mean, he was going crazy on day 1 and day 2. You know, so we already seen some things coming out where some people are like, oh my God, this community is getting hit pretty hard. And I'm going to react to some of those things because I think that in this space, we should talk about that regardless of what community it is. We talk about politics here. We talk about religion here. You know, we talk about conservatism and being liberal as well. So it doesn't matter left, right. Nothing's untouched, right? Nothing is going untouched at all, right? We're not going to be afraid of something just because maybe it causes an argument in the comments or we don't have the same view on something, right? We can agree to disagree, and I think healthy adults should be able to do that. So with that being said, light up the comment section, guys. I'm dying to know what you think about this here. What do you think about what MSNBC and Joy Reid are saying about Donald Trump's inauguration speech and him sharing inauguration day with MLK Day, and this being a day of pain for so many people. I'm not sure I felt pain on inauguration day. In fact, I know I didn't. But maybe some of you did. Maybe you didn't, and the MSNBC is making it up. So light up the comment section, guys. Tell me what you think about it. Until next time, guys, thanks for stopping by and chilling on the corner with me. Take care of yourselves, guys. Be peaceful. Love yourselves. Love one another. Peace.